Like we got
Got-
John. A reminder that the permanent building committee meeting is about to start. Popping up. So Brad and I have a neighbor that's done this like massive landscaping job. So Brad and I, our properties touch, but there's another house on the corner that's like in between us. And this guy just did this massive landscaping work. It's making us both look really bad. Hey Brad, you with us?
Yes, my mulch is scheduled for Thursday.
So is that the house right on the corner?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
they're
and then my other neighbor just put their house on the market
Oh.
on,
Yes,
on Thursday.
Yeah, I heard the person that bought that has like
Oh.
all kinds of plans too to do the same thing to
Oh,
you.
so great. Has how do you know? Do you know who's buying it?
Um, our neighbor Dan had some intel.
Oh, okay.
He's more in tune with that stuff than I am.
Yeah. Is what it is.
Yeah. All right, it looks like we've got everyone here, so we'll call the meeting to order. I'll do a quick roll call attendance to get started. Nancy Toomey,
Here.
Kirk McCormick,
Here.
John Coote,
I'm here.
Michael Bean,
Here.
Greg Stepler,
Here.
and Brad Condon.
Present.
Thanks. And Pat Tompkins is here. First item is just a review of the prior month's meeting minutes. Hopefully everyone got a copy of those to review. Just give you a couple minutes to take a quick pass at them if you haven't already, and let us know if anyone has any comments. So assuming there are no comments, I don't know if anyone wants to make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that? And we'll take a roll call vote to accept the minutes. Nancy,
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
And Pat, aye. Okay, next item on the minutes is the DPW narrative. Just give me a minute. I'll see if I can pull that up on my screen. I'm having trouble with this. There we go. Bear with the technology challenged over here. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Zoom this in a little bit better. There we go. So the first page is basically the same for all of the reports. I'll scroll to the second page, let everyone read through and comment, have, if anyone has any comments. The occupancy classification and building construction classification are highlighted. I think Mike, you wrote this one, right? You drafted it, I should say.
Correct.
So I think we can leave those sort of aside and kind of assign a task to someone to search the sort of do to make sure we have all those correct before we finalize. I read through this previously. I didn't have any comments. I thought this narrative was very well done. You guys just take a chance to read through. If there's anything you see, if you want to talk through it. Just scroll down. Let me know if I'm moving too fast for anyone.
Pat, just one thing on the front cover page. Can you scroll all the way up?
Sure.
You just might want to add Kirk to the list and probably update 2019 to 2021.
Did I spell that right, Kirk?
It's ICK.
Thank you.
No problem.
Knew I was going to do that.
No problem.
And 2021, Pat.
Yeah, I got the 2021.
You've got an extra one in there somewhere. That's it.
With that. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, John. Okay. The description seemed to be pretty thorough. The observations all made sense. And the recommendations all matched up with the checklist that we did. Does anyone have any comments?
I just don't know if Kevin can weigh in if any of these things have been addressed on the recommendations list. Or Joe, either or.
Yeah, Kevin or Joe, if you can give us an update. I know the paved surfaces that would just fall under the DPW. Probably as well as the wetlands. We do want to make sure some of the stuff was at least communicated to DPW.
Well, and Ryan's on the call, so we'll make sure we talk to Ryan offline after the meeting. The T111 siding is on our list to take care of. We did we rebuilt the front door over there, Kev. I know that on that shed, correct?
Yeah, the sliding door, yeah.
Yeah, that was fixed because that got hit a few times by the loader. Then the vehicle maintenance building, cracks exist in the CMU where the overhead hoist beams on the interior divider walls. We'll look into that one, C9.1.
Okay.
And also, of course, B4.8.
Yep.
Well, we did already look at that. We sent Rich to look at it, but at the time they were getting their delivery of
Well, yeah.
salt for the winter, so we couldn't do it because in order for us to repair that, it's got to be almost empty for us to do it.
Yeah, that would make sense. You wouldn't want to do that in the winter, but coming up in the summer months would probably be the time to try to address that. Okay, so anyone have any other comments on the narrative?
looks great.
All right, I don't think we need a vote or anything. Save this. And now we can move on to the water tower project. So Ryan, if you want to give us an update.
Sure, I can do that. Mike's on the call as well. Just a quick update from the last time we met, which wasn't too long ago. We took pretty much all the comments and questions that you had and basically answered them the best we could. And the comments related to the location of the cell tower were not unheard, and we had concerns about that as well. So since then, we've had a bid opening for the RFP for the cell tower that was considered responsive, and I believe the procurement agent is checking that to make sure that that can be awarded. But the apparent low bidder at the time, or responsive bidder, was AT&T, and that was the only bidder at the time. So we've had conversations with them since, and relocating to the easterly side of the property seems to make a lot more sense when we start digging into their zone of influence from their ballasted spread footing. So kind of going by not knowing what our excavation is going to look like and everything like that, we're just going to move that location to the easterly side of the property. So just east of the shelter and out of the way of the wires that go over to the cell carrier shelter building. So that's probably the biggest change. And we worked with, we've been working with CPDC and more particularly with the planning department to get onto the agenda for June 14th to get that approved as a major modification so we don't lose any time. And that should keep us on track and on schedule for what we have for a bid opening for this project. And hopefully DEP finishes their review in enough time. Outside of that, I've met with the resident in particular where this tower would be close to. Met with them today. We had a nice discussion, so that seemed to go well. They understood where we were coming from, and hopefully the 14th with CPDC will go fine. So that should clear up that item. And Mike, anything else that's sort of lingering out there, that major update? I mean, I think that was it. We can probably go into maybe some of the comments, or more particular, the schedule of where we're at right now.
Ryan, just quickly on the CPDC meeting, I don't know what your feeling is, but I think our committee definitely agrees with moving that tower over, from an engineering constructability standpoint. And I think, we would be comfortable with you referencing that to CPDC in your meeting to let them know that you have our support in moving that.
Okay.
We all collectively felt like that was a good idea, so.
Yeah, I mean, and again, without getting into too much detail of the process, we go through the public process. This is how it works. And Mike and I had a plan on how we would manage this as the RFPs opened up. And so it's been falling in line with the sequencing. So we didn't miss any time, and it didn't hurt us to open up the bids and award them based on the primary location, knowing that shifting that ballasted pole over to the east wasn't going to be an issue. So
Can you go through the timing again, Ryan, in terms of how
Sure.
how those two projects don't get in each other's way? Or
So, that's a great question, John, and Mike and I grapple with that all the time. So hopefully the bid for the water tank will open up per plan. And if that's the case, we don't have much lead time in between the RFP for the cell tower versus the opening for this water tank project. And if we can get that water tank project awarded fast enough, what we'll have them do is we'll have them clear cut strip the site, and that will allow the cell company to come in and erect their temporary structure. Once that happens, they're sort of they can't be in each other's way at that point, because we can't do any more work until all the cell equipment has been deemed basically off the cell, the water tank. Once that happens, they're virtually out of the way at that point, and then we'll come in. And if everything works out according to plan, Mike and I hope to have stripping and at the very most, or at least the water tank demolished by the winter, or during the winter, if the weather's conducive. That will set us up for perfect timing for an early spring start for construction.
But you will be spending money on the telecommunications tower before the bid opening for the.
No, so the way the RFP went out for the cell tower is that is completely funded by, that will be funded and constructed by AT&T. The piece that Reading will be cooperating towards that is the relocation of our equipment, our public safety equipment. So that's the piece that where we get involved. But as far as how long that temporary tower stays up there, the town's not paying for the construction of that. That's all borne by the by AT&T, respectively.
Okay.
Which that was a little tricky on crafting too. So that was very well crafted by procurement and town council. So. Mike, can you just speak to, Pat was just asking a couple questions before the meeting had started, just based on some scheduling and when we need final comments back from this group, and when we look to have the bid in the Central Register. And I will say, this is our best guess right now at this point, if everything works the way we think it's going to.
It was no later than the best guess right now. No later than Central. Put it advertised on July 1, so it would show up in the Central Register on the 7th. I am pushing to try to get it a week earlier, so that would mean it would be submit the advert. Looking at the calendar now, this might be a little tough, but it would mean the 24th. Thursday, we'd have to submit the ad to the Central Register to have it show up and be advertised on the June 30th. So we were really looking at next week would be the last time that you guys would have the ability to comment on it, so that we could make the changes. I guess talking it through right now and factoring in the revised location of the monopole. I think the July 1, or basically July 7th, when it shows up in the Central Register, is probably a more feasible, more likely scenario at this point. But that still kind of keeps us on track for what we had always have a bid opening by the end of July.
And that all hinges on whether or not DEP sends in all of their comments on time.
We were going to reach out this week and see where they were at, but I haven't heard on a response yet.
Were you not doing another
Go
estimate?
ahead, John.
Cost
Go ahead, John.
estimate? Were you doing another cost estimate for the project?
Yes, we're kind of finalizing those things. I know that there have been some comments about the measurement. Well, I guess I'm sure you guys want to see that, so we could have that to you. It would have to be next week by Friday, the 18th.
18th.
So Mike, that that cost estimate, that's for mainly for us to budget and fix the capital and adjust it accordingly for November town meeting. So there might be a little bit more time just to take a look at that, but that's what that'll be used for. And then again, that'll be sort of supplemented by the bid opening as those prices come in, we'll adjust. But that gives us an opportunity to adjust the capital plan right now for town meeting and get it in there. And if it changes because of the bid opening, then we'll make that final change then and get that programmed in with the town manager. So sort of what that will be used for. Again, just for the bid items, I know there's some, and John, you made a great comment about the rock excavation, and Mike and I were talking about that you'll see some of those items in there, they might seem way off, and they haven't even really programmed their quantities in yet into that bid tab. So there'll be some placeholders that you see. So if you see like 10 cubic yards, it's obviously going to be more than that.
Well, then why was it 10 cubic yards if it's going to be more? I mean, these kind of things upset us. They don't upset us emotionally. They upset us in terms of our thinking. When you have 10 cubic yards in, but it's obviously way in excess.
I was just explaining that was in there as a placeholder for right now. They're still going through and calculating all this stuff. So that's what Mike and the team is working on. So it's one of the last things that they get to. And so you guys will get that as soon as that's finished to comment on.
A couple things, Mike, when you were talking, you cut out for a moment, and the one date I didn't hear was the date you need comments from us. The most important date I was trying to pay attention to.
Oh, sorry, I've been having some issues with my internet. So I think if I give you, so if you're going to get the cost estimate of the 18th, then I don't know, would it give you enough time to have comments back by June 22nd, 23rd?
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily need the cost estimate to give comments. And I'm thinking if you're possibly going to move it up to a submission on the 24th, that, you know, our deadline should be a little sooner than that. Like a week.
The only thing that needs to go in is on the 24th is the advertisement for bid.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if we give you comments, you have an opportunity to review those comments.
Sure.
And I mean, another topic we can slide right into is if we want to try to schedule another meeting before you put it in the central register. But table that topic for now.
Yeah, the first thing we need though is an accurate set of documents, drawings and specifications, you know, something final. We can't keep commenting on what I consider preliminary information. We've got to have a final set of documents, final as you see it at the time, so that we can give meaningful comments. Otherwise, we're just spinning our wheels.
Right, I understand that, but I mean, right now, I mean, you've I just want to thank you. You've given us a ton of comments, but not everyone in the group has on the documents that we have. So there is some feedback to be given on the documents that we have right now. So I just want to make sure we all know when the deadline is for that. We talked a little bit about it at the last meeting, and I think we established a date of like the 13th to have those comments. And
yeah, the site plan is you know, we're probably at 75-100 set. So you know, we're going to change obviously the location of where that monopole is going, but other than that, we're pretty finalized on those site plans, I would say, right, Mike? There might be some cleanup with how notes look, but other than that, what you have is considered to be a 75-100 set. So I'm comfortable with what you're commenting on, at least for the site plans. You know, in the specs, again, obviously there were some cleanup things that were pointed out, and their structural team's going through doing a final spec review on that. And once we have those finalized specs, we'll send those over.
I mean, if we could get comments on what you guys have in front of you by the 15th or the 16th, that would be beneficial. And I think, you know, I think based, you know, we can provide comment on what you've already submitted and certainly give you a more detailed and finalized measurement and payment and bid tab that doesn't have the placeholders and has the actual quantities of what we have in there. Um, you know, I think if we could, I'll shoot for a week from today. I know you guys do try to do some work on Sundays. That's what I heard last time. So if we can get it by the end of the week, we will certainly do our best to do that for you.
And that's the.
Just, that would be
concept
just the measurement payment and the bid
of
tab.
The measurement payment spec. Okay,
So I'll write that in. We'll try to hit that date for you. Where you can give some meaningful comment on that.
so what date are you gonna try and hit for the measurement and payment spec?
Be the end of this
6/11,
week.
Friday. We'll
Yeah.
try to hit Friday for you.
That's Friday, okay.
Yeah.
It'll be 6/11. Okay. So John, I think what we're gonna have, I think the next, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, the next version of documents that we'll see will effectively be the final documents
That's correct.
that, and we'll probably be seeing those simultaneously with them going out to bid. There
I
is
would-
the opportunity for comment, discussion, and addenda, so it's not like it's too late at that point. We'll get a final measurement and payment spec by the end of this week, which will give us, which I think we'll have to review in a week. Maybe give us, if you give that to us by the 11th, I think we would have to get that, any comments back to you by the 20th. Does that make sense? I'm looking at a calendar.
Yeah, if the 20, you give us comments back by the 20th on the measurement and payment and bid tab, that would give us time to address those prior to
Right, to the, yeah.
having
So, yeah, I'll give you a very narrow window, but it'll give you a few days before your earliest date
sure.
of the
Right.
24th.
Yeah, it'll be plenty of, it'll be enough time. The pickup of the bid is until when, July 7th? Did I
Okay.
get that date correct?
Correct.
So we have some time. We don't like to push it that tight, but we do have time.
Yeah.
Again, it's an accelerated schedule, so.
Do you think that'll work, John? What we'll see? I think
No.
what we'll-
I just think it's too tight. Everything's too tight. You know, I can understand why, but we should have had a final set of documents 2 weeks ago. When I say final, I mean a well thought out set of documents that didn't have placeholders in them. The design hasn't changed essentially for months. The rock quantities have been known for months. Why do we have placeholders? You know, it just doesn't give me a great deal of confidence. That's all. I mean, I'm just being a little crabby about this because I see the documents right now. The last ones I saw are so inaccurate. I mean, they're not good. They've got too many loose ends. I didn't comment on all the stuff I saw. I just commented on the kind of weird stuff. But there we are. I just don't have any confidence that this schedule is going to be satisfactory.
Well, let's give it a shot. And
Yeah,
see
but
if
we cannot do any more than go with it. But
Yeah.
it shouldn't have been like this. We should have had all these final documents, at least with some accurate quantities. They're so basic. Should have been weeks ago.
Okay.
Sorry, I mean that's just how I feel.
No, that's perfectly fair.
It's my birthday today, by the way, and I'm 84, so I'm acting like a cranky old guy at last. I've never done it before, you know that.
John, absolutely. I've no issues with
No comment.
your comments. You've done a great job reviewing this stuff. I think, I hope Ryan and Mike see the same thing. Going through some of your comments, some of the thought you've put into it has been excellent, and it's only going to serve to make, to help this project. I think we can try to work through this timeline. I get it. There won't be a lot of time to review final documents, and I can appreciate what you're saying too. when you're reading preliminary documents and you're like, do I make a comment on this? Has this been thought through or not? When you see something that seems like it's obviously wrong, but on some levels, that's the nature of it's the nature of it's the nature of the beast when you're working with incomplete documents and trying to bring a project to completion. I know you've got a lot more experience with that than I do, John. So I'm not gonna explain anything to you. But if we try to stick with getting a final measurement and payment spec with quantities and what have you, which we keep coming back to, both John and I have commented on that separately. So if we can get that by the 11th. In the meantime, again, John has provided some excellent, thoughtful comments on the most recent round. I still have some homework to do. I intended to go through some stuff in more detail to give you some comments, and we'll set a deadline of the 16th for us to give you any more information on the documents we've got. There'll be a couple things running in parallel paths here. And then we'll give ourselves a week from 6/11 to 6/18 if we have any feedback for you on the measurement and payment spec. And that'll give us a chance to look at what we have. And then if the earliest dates of the 24th and the 30th came true, that's when the documents would be finalized.
Yeah. And remember, our prime function here is to make sure that when this goes into construction, there are not huge cost extras. That's why PBC was formed, based upon the library where we had huge cost extras. We want this project to go with no, I'm going to say no change orders. I know that's not realistic, but there is no excuse for going into a project with the idea that there's going to be probably some big increases in cost during construction. Everything should be well defined. There's no reason for the things like the top of rock elevation not to be well defined on the drawings. There shouldn't be any unknowns. The bidder should be able to make an accurate price and not have causes for big claims. And that's the function of the PBC. And I'm not convinced right now, as the documents stand, that they are watertight. That's just my feeling about it.
Okay.
They will be. They will be. That's why we're working towards this with this group. So, we don't want any change orders either. So the quantities will be as close to what we think is there.
Okay. Good.
And as far as a lot of the stuff that's submitted will be there'll be a lot of appendix items such as the borings and all that. That's also part of the contract that goes out. So the bidder has all the information to make their sound, bid and judgment. So we appreciate it. And again, I know where you're coming from, John. I'd feel the same way. We're all on a very accelerated time schedule. So just trying to put everything together.
In the when you have unit prices, and we've got a few different sort of potential quantity changes between the lead soil, contaminated soil, and the ledge. So those are areas where, if not done properly, from my experience, you can get hit with something big after the fact.
Yep, those are always the two. Anything under the ground unknown. So unknown contaminants, unknown rock, things of that. So they'll be defined accordingly. And I know Mike and his team have been working on this because we have by probably 2 meetings a week on a lot of these questions. So
Okay. One item that you discussed having the I think Mike might be frozen.
Sorry, I was just going to say I appreciate the comments and I echo what
Okay. One thing you mentioned earlier about clearing the site and then having AT&T come in, and I know your baseline spec will have something about the water tower contractor coordinating and working with other contractors hired by the owner on site. like the base AIA documents will usually have that, you know, allowable work by owners, other contractors. You just might want to look at that and, you know, highlight it a little more, because we just know there's going to be some pretty serious coordination there.
Yeah, we can certainly highlight that and pull that out and add it in as a special provision section too. So, you know, if we want to call special attention to something in particular, we can pull it and put it in the special provisions. But, you know, the good thing is AT&T's been along for the ride as well, and all the carriers, so they understand the coordination that we have, and they can't really put up their monopole until that site has been deemed clean. So
yeah,
they'll have to work with us because they don't have a choice, and vice versa. So we'll have to make sure that Mike and I come up with some crafty wording in there for how we coordinate that, and get them to expedite the site clear up. So.
okay. Mike, you were kind of walking us through schedule. I don't know if we interrupted you going through what you were going through, or if you were finished.
No, I think, I mean, I think I touched on most everything. Ryan pointed out DEP, so they have the potential to you know, put us off a couple of weeks if they don't get us comments back in time. But like I said before, we're looking to reach out to them to see where they're at and see, you know, if they've made any headway with their review. And I guess I want to point out too that we've been looking at some of your previous comments about the insurance. So those who are running up our flagpole with our insurance people, trying to meet, spoke to Ryan about that to make sure we're utilizing the town's approved language with their insurance requirements, but then just working with people that know a little bit more about insurance than I do on answering those questions for you. Let's see. But as far as schedule goes, no, I didn't have anything else to add.
Okay, I kind of cut out for a bit there.
Was that me? I swear.
I don't know. I think I actually just dropped out and came back in. So I definitely think it was me. I don't want to make you repeat everything you said, but it sounds like you've covered everything.
I think so at this time, yes.
Does anyone else have any other comments or questions right now for the water tower project? So just to kind of reiterate, everyone should have the latest set of documents. John's given a lot of detailed comments, and if we want to review any of that stuff and give them any feedback, sooner the better, but an absolute deadline of the 16th. And we should see an updated measurement and payment spec by this Friday. That again, if we wanted to give them feedback on, we'd want to give them feedback by the 20th. So everyone kind of tables those things. And then the other thing that I have in mind is if we think there's a need for an interim meeting before the project gets, you know, with potentially a lot of back and forth over the next 3 weeks, before the project potentially gets posted in the Central Register. If anyone feels like we might need a June meeting, anyone has any thoughts on that? I mean, we could play it by ear over the next week or two. We could set a tentative date, or if everyone feels comfortable that we're not going to need to meet again before then. I know what everyone's thoughts are. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
My thought is that we don't need to necessarily meet, but we do need to be able to communicate, and I'm not sure how we can do that. You know, given the open meeting law requirements. You know, we can't obviously talk. PBC can't obviously talk to Weston and Sampson directly, and we wouldn't want to. But there has to be some method of communication. It would be nice to have some method of communication, even if it's not a meeting, but I don't know how we do that.
Well, I don't think there's anything, like the comments that you've given me, I've given to Weston and Sampson, so they
Yeah.
have those.
Yes.
So, it's a little bit onerous, but I think running, the comments through me to Ryan into Weston and Sampson is the avenue for that.
It is, yes.
The question is, you know, it's really not much dialogue, but if we can get some sort of at some checkpoint, Michael and Ryan, if we can get sort of, this is what, you know, here's your list of comments. I know you were working on this, Ryan, and this is what we've done. And some of the items might be, you know, we disagree. We think that this is the appropriate way to do that, and it might be that we've received your comment and we changed the technical specification to not include WR Grace, for example. If we have that type of feedback, then you know, that'll flush out if the comments have been addressed, and also if we need to meet again, right? Because if it's something that isn't as simple, I'm gonna, you know, you pointed out there was a technical reference to a WR Grace product in the spec that's no longer WR Grace. It's a different company. So that's kind of an easy one-off. But if there's some of the comments turn into something more complicated, that'll kind of flush out if we need to meet as a group and talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the comments was to do with the finish to the concrete, which is a substantial cost item as far as I can see. And I don't know what the response will be to that, but it may be that this may require going backwards and forwards more than once or twice on such an item. I mean, right now we've got some coating that's going on the tower. That was a complete surprise to me, up until the point where I read it in the spec. And it may be perfectly justified, I don't know, but is there a response on that, or or not? What is the situation? Is the concrete on the tower going to be bare concrete, or are we going to have a parging on it? What's the thought on that?
I don't have a response at this time on that. I just got, you know, just in reviewing the comments, and I know that our structural team is working through those comments. And we're working through finalizing their specification as well. So I can certainly, I need to bring that up with them to see what their recommendations are. So I'm sorry, at this point, we can't have that dialogue at this time because I don't have an answer.
Okay, no problem. I mean, it's no problem.
So let me ask a question, Mike. If we move our deadline up from the 16th to the 13th, which is a Sunday, I always like to get my weekends. So if we changed our deadline for giving you info to the 13th, I think you've got most of the comments you're going to get, because John's kind of the guy pulling all the putting us all on his back on this one and doing a great job. But if we had comments to you by the 13th, do you think you could have, even if it's not 100% complete, but some responses to stuff by the 18th? And bear in mind, you've already got, you know, what will probably be the lion's share of the technical comments from John. That would kind of coincide with the payment spec on the 11th. And it doesn't need to be like 100% finalized if, you know, if the comments are something still being worked on, you know, that's okay too. But, you know, obviously everything will start getting jammed up tight. And if we just get feedback on the 18th, that might be the time. When we get feedback on the information we've given you on the 18th, that's at the point where we'll be able to tell as a group if we think we need to meet again. Don't you agree, John?
Yeah, fine. I don't care. I mean, we're talking dates, and what happens will happen. It's
yeah. I know there's a lot. It's kind of a tight time frame, Mike. But do you think
We can,
Right.
we can certainly,
That's
I certainly will give you guys comments by the 18th, and if you're okay with a couple of them being, we're still working that through, and,
Yeah.
you know, I'm waiting for an answer, then I have no issue.
Yeah.
You know, meeting that deadline.
Yeah, and Mike and I have been compiling the comment. There's a long list of comments, not just from this group, but also from CPDC. I think we've compiled a long list of those, correct, Mike? I don't know if we've been keeping them all on one sheet or what we've been doing with the answers, but
I've just been trying to, what I get from you, Ryan, we try to, you know, include back and send back to you. So I know that we have the PBC comments, your comments from the previous meeting
Right.
still standing to finalize. And we have the new ones that arrived this morning. As far as, did you say CP? No, you did. Sorry, all the acronyms are blending together in my head here, but you said PBC, correct? So yes, we have all the comments, and I can probably just include them on one page to make things easier for you when we fully respond. If that's easier for you guys, or do you want to see them in stages based on when they were submitted? I guess it's up to you guys what you need to see and what you want to see.
I think from our perspective, we just want to see, you know, everything we've given you, you know, some sort of responses to, you know, what's been done. You know, some of the stuff, the response, like I said, will be terribly simple. I think everything we've sent is in a Word document, so it could be combined.
Right. Okay.
yeah. And Mike and I have been responding to a lot of those, at least internally too. So we have responses and changes to specs and things like that. So
Okay. So I guess, thinking we won't need another meeting, but if we did need to sneak one in, probably if we were sticking with a Monday, it would either be the 21st or the 28th. And the 21st would be too soon. We really wouldn't know if we would need a meeting at that point. So it would really be the 28th. Which could potentially be after we've advertised in the Central Register. Because you've got the earliest dates you set out for that were advertising on the 24th. That's when you need to send it in, and then it's advertised in the Central Register in the 30th.
that's a potentially earliest date, potentially.
So I'm trying to work from the earliest potential.
Yeah, we try to shoot for the early date too all the time. So I think realistically, like Mike said, we're probably looking somewhere around the July 1st deadline, right, Mike?
That's my thought. Since we haven't heard from DEP, and we, you know, it sounds like we're going to have, well, we'll be addressing comments that'll likely be the latter one, but we always try to strive for.
What happens on most projects is that when the final estimate is done, there's some head scratching going on, and you get into a situation, a process called value engineering. Everybody's heard that term, I know. We don't seem to have any time to do value engineering on this job.
I would agree with that.
And that is our function. Our function as BBC is to make sure that the town are getting a good deal in terms of what they're paying for. The price is right. And I don't see a process right now where we can, absent a new estimate, which may come in way, way, way above the previous estimate. In my view, I'm just guessing, but I think it's going to come in way,
No,
way.
you don't have to guess, John. We know it's coming to come in above that.
I know it is, but the question is how much above that. I mean, if it's three times the old estimate, obviously value engineering rears its ugly head. We don't have time to do that if you're going into the central register at the end of the month. And that's why I'm saying this schedule is unrealistic, because I can see the pitfall of when the estimate comes in. Do you really want to go to town meeting with a project that's going to cost 3 times what you promised them last time around, without making sure, having everybody's blessing that every cent that could be taken out of this job has been taken out of this job? And I don't see it. I see that there's a lot of fat in this job. A lot of economies can be made. And when the reality of the final cost estimate comes in, I think we may be scratching our heads and saying, what are we going to do? I'm just kind of projecting the future, but we don't have that luxury of time to do the value engineering on this job. And I think we're going to need the time. But that's just my personal view.
Well, there will be, albeit brief, there will be a brief period of time after a cost estimate's done. And even after the cost estimate's done, you really don't know what the final numbers are until the bids come in. And
True, but you know, with more degree of exactitude. I mean, this job to me is there's a lot of fat in it, but.
I guess I'm not following you, John, when you're saying there's a lot of fat in the job. I mean, the job's pretty straightforward when you're looking at the site. We're requesting for a design and constructed water tank on a site that needs to be stripped with some water main pertinent work. So, I don't see where.
I think the big numbers come down to the rock and the contamination.
Yeah, I agree with that. We also have borings all over the site, so we're pretty confident that rock, we'll know what that rock number is going to be at.
But you can minimize the rock excavation by raising the elevation of the footing. It doesn't have to be 4 feet below grade, the top of the footing. There's no technical reason for it to be 4 feet below grade.
Well, we'll look into that, John. We'll get back to you.
Right now it's shown 6 feet below grade, by the way. It doesn't have to be 6 feet below grade. It can be 3 feet below grade, is one of my comments. You save a hell of a lot of rock excavation. You squeeze a lot of money out of the job. Better to do it now than when the job has been bid and we're trying to take money out of it then. So the elevation of the footing, all wrong in my view.
Just to circle back on that, I think the 2 big variables and the 2 big potentials for cost overruns are contaminated soil, which that's been laid out in prior memos by Weston and Sampson, and the town has made the decision to spend more money and to remove the soils. So that's less of an engineering and more of a political decision to spend that money. So realistically, if you just say, all right, the tank is the tank, the pipe coming in from the street is the pipe coming in from the street, it is what it is. You can do a few things here and there. And believe me, John, you've come up with some really strong points. So what we're down to is the major variable is the rock.
It's the rock. It's also the existing footings for the tank. I understand we don't know what the existing footings for the tank are. A backhoe out there for a few hours would tell us that information.
The existing footings for the
Tank,
that need to be removed.
My understanding is nobody knows what they are. Concrete, presumably they're concrete.
Excavation and the footing. So Mike will
So,
go. Mike can ask the structural engineers and go back, and we'll just review that again.
What are we giving in the way of information to bidders as to what the existing footings are? There's nothing on the drawings right now.
We could supply the existing, whatever existing plans we have as an appendix to the contract.
Are we going to do that?
We
I think
could
we should.
add that in there, yes.
Well, I mean, isn't that information that the bidders want to know?
Yeah, so I would think between with the use of the existing, the original drawings, we can define the limits of the existing footings. So that shouldn't be a problem to do. That should be clearly shown on the document so the bidders can quantify that. And also, so if something is different, it's easy to define, what the bidder should have carried. If we all agree the best information is 1950 something drawings and they show it 5 feet deep, just to pick a number, and we get out there and it's 7 feet deep, there's kind of no question the contractor is entitled to an extra or not, or entitled to a credit if it's less, I guess. So I don't see any reason that can't be defined. The biggest, again, and even at that, that's not the biggest, the big expense is the rock excavation. John, off the top of your head, you had about 800 yards, which is, could be a pretty significant figure. So I think Weston and Sampson should just look hard at some of those engineering options to make sure we're minimizing. I think
if you raise the footing,
we want to minimize the rock excavation. That definitely makes sense. If from an engineering standpoint, we can do that, we should.
if you raise the footing, you can halve that rock excavation.
Okay, yeah, no, we're certainly looking at those options.
What I'm saying, my pitch is when you get into value engineering, you've almost lost the battle. You need to design into the project the most economical solution. We don't have that right now, in my view. It's not a PBC view, it's a personal view, my view.
I hear you, John, and I agree that we've said since day one, it's potentially a lot of rock excavation. There's potentially a lot of contaminated soil excavation. And I think we've been clear that, we think these things should be defined the best they can, and they should be thought through, at least to minimize the rock excavation. You really can't minimize the soil removal. The town has made the commitment and the decision to remove the top layer of soil that, with all the testing information we've been given and everyone has seen, will result in, once we strip that soil, the lead levels of the soil, the underlying soils should be low enough that it can remain. So I think we just got to kind of move on. I think the message has been heard loud and clear from by Ryan and Michael, and try and stick to the schedule we laid out so they can get it out to bid. Definitely be interested in seeing a revised cost estimate. That was one of the comments we had, day one. It's clear that it's going to be a lot more than the project was anticipated when it came up originally. How much more is ultimately the question, and the engineer's estimate will help. Which I think you don't need that for to advertise in the Central Register. So the engineer's estimate will help, and we should continue trying to make sure that the foundation design is the most economical that it can be. And we really won't have the final numbers until we get the bids. But to your point, John, we should just keep trying to do the best we can to put the best package out there. Does anyone else have any other comments? Any thoughts?
I just have a comment on the contamination removal. That was a political decision done by CPDC, I believe, correct? In their hearing, I think that the owners were looking in the area to have all of that removed for a park purpose. It would be really helpful to know if there's a chance, what the delta is for that decision, because that could come into play when it comes to the cost. I don't know for sure, but if it's going to be absolutely astronomical, the town may want to decide, gee, maybe this isn't a good idea. But I don't know if we have that luxury, whether we have to remove the soil no matter what, but just something to consider.
Yeah, that's a great point, Nancy. I think we've gotten to the point where we know that soil and the site cleanup is going to happen. based on comments, not only from CPDC, but from the select board and from the town manager and everyone alike. So we know we're going to be stripping those trees and need to be over to the easterly side of the property where we're going to be shifting the monopole. So we're into really kind of cleaning that whole site anyway. But there is going to be a delta. The cleanup is going to be far greater than what we had before we went through this process. I think, you know, we're knowing that when we leave that site, we're going to have a clean site. We're pretty committed to that.
And
Town
I
meeting's
think
always-
I'm sorry, that's going to be important to communicate to town meeting when they actually vote on the number that you're looking for, because that they'll wonder why this number is so big. And if that is something that they can get around, that's only going to help the cause for voting for additional funds.
Absolutely. So we plan on highlighting what the changes were, where we think the changes are, and why the change and why we're asking for more money. That's what we normally do. And so those will be highlighted the best that we can. So I can tell you right off the bat, the contaminated soils one will be one, and then any price adjustments that we've seen in the last year and a half with steel, to the best that we can predict that market. We'll do revised cost estimates based on those too. So, and rock is always one that we look at. So we'll look at that with a fine tooth comb and see what we can do as far as where the rock profile is and adjust from there.
Okay. And Nancy, there is some information in a Weston and Sampson memo on the soil removal. It was a while ago, but it kind of, you know, had some ballpark costs of different options. And what we're doing probably doesn't exist in that memo exactly.
No, it doesn't.
But
Yeah.
you could probably try to extract a range from that. Okay. Any other thoughts, comments on the water tower project? All right. I think we're on to new business. I had a couple of things I wanted to bring up. So next month's meeting is in July. If we do something interim, it would be dedicated solely to a discussion of things related to the water tower. It's July 12th. And the current, so I don't know if you all may have gotten something from Laura about the Zoom meetings and open meeting laws. And currently the way, Nancy can correct me when I say something wrong, but currently as of the 15th, the exemption for in-person meetings will expire. So if nothing else changes, if we meet on July 12th, it will have to be in person. It is possible, reading through that memo, it's possible that the legislation will make a change and extend the exemptions maybe out to like September. So if that happens, we would have the option of meeting by Zoom. I touched base with Bob LaLasher, and Joe filled me in as well, that if we wanted to meet July 12th in person, regardless of what they do, we can do that. We can meet in person at any time based on the current Board of Health guidelines right now. So just a quick open mic discussion from anyone that has any thoughts on their comfort level with meeting in person, continuing to meet by Zoom, you know, what everyone's thoughts are.
I think we should meet at John's house for scallops and martinis.
Yeah.
That's the best thing anyone said all night. I'll bring the gin for the martinis.
Yeah, okay. I will different schedule tonight because it's my birthday. I told you earlier.
I don't have a problem meeting in person. I don't have a problem meeting on Zoom. It's up to everybody else, but
I have no problems with in-person meeting. I'm old, I'm expendable.
Do we have any more buildings to look at that you want to meet at a location, or what's your thoughts on that?
And I think the next building would be the library.
Okay.
Oh,
Anyone?
that could work. Yeah, because of the meeting rooms there, if they have space.
Yeah. So why don't we tentatively plan for meeting the 12th in person at the library? We'll kind of finalize that over the next month, as well as finalizing if we try to sneak in an interim meeting. If we do an interim meeting on the water tower, if it's possible to do Zoom, I would probably do Zoom. If we get to the 16th and nothing's been extended and we want to do a meeting at the end of June, it would have to be in person. So
Right.
that'll be a scramble, and we'll kind of figure it out on the fly. Okay. The next two narratives, the two narratives of the buildings we've toured that we have left, are the police station and the senior center. I'll probably put both of those on the agenda to review next month as well, unless it looks like we're going to be bogged down with like a lot of water tower stuff. Another item, we do have an associate member vacancy. We've kind of always had a vacancy, but just a reminder, your day-to-day, if you come across anyone that you think would be a good addition to the team, definitely reach out to them, and we can let me know. We can point them in the right direction of who to talk to about being reviewed to be put on the board. But I was just poking around the website. I asked Bob to take the cemetery building off our website page today. And I noticed that I just remembered that we still had an associate member vacancy. I think Mike, myself, and Greg all renewed since we were expiring this year. And thanks to Mike for pointing out to me exactly when that was happening, so we knew to get it in on time. That's all I had. I did want to just say thank you, John, for all the effort you put in on the water tower, because you're definitely carrying us with really giving them some technical feedback, and I for one appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I do too.
You're
Happy birthday.
If only we knew. If I knew that, and I knew we could have had a meeting in person.
Yeah.
All right, does anyone else have any new business?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I.
All right, guys, thank you.
Good night.
Thanks. Good night.
All right.
Thank you.